We're back out here on the GMC Jimmy. I've got her on jack stands. I kind of wiggled it over. This is where it's going to live, I think, for quite a while we work on the chassis. So, got some big boy jack stands on the frame here and then up front. We're going to start today by pulling the rear end, and that's a pretty straightforward deal. So we can get that hammered. And then I was looking at the front end, because it's this four-wheel drive. The front end is different. It's funny, it looks like a Dana 70, and I'm familiar with those because I blew one up in my motorhome trying to do burnouts. This is a much smaller version of that, but there's all kinds of crap connected to it. So I'm going to start with the easy and get a small victory today and get the rear end out of here, and then we will move on to the front end stuff. It looks like there's more attachment points, and it looks like more of a cluster to get that one out. So let's do the easy stuff first, relatively speaking. Well, here's a look at how far we are at the moment. Disconnected the emergency brake lines, the plumbing. I evacuated the master cylinder so it wouldn't just continue dripping fluid. I cleaned all these off and I sprayed them with some penetrating oil. We got the shocks disconnected as well. So this thing's ready to come out, but I was laying on this dude with the old earthquake. That's what I got. The old earthquake gun. Yeah, it's probably not the best. It's broken loose most things, but let's put a little heat on this dog and it just wasn't having it. So we're gonna have to talk to it a little bit better, and I'll get the cutout wheels out. I'm running low because I've been fabricating a bunch of stuff, so I'm gonna have to run and get some cutoff wheels. We will continue this later, but we're just gonna cut these. So I'll get measurements on the U-joints and then we'll cut them off, and I'll make a note so we can order new ones so we reassemble it. I was hoping these would come out, so I just want to use the OG stuff. I'm not trying to buy a bunch of different things. These look to be in good shape. They've probably never been off. That's probably why they're so on the vehicle. It's probably all factory stuff. But I'll share this with you since we're up in here. Look at this. Ooh-wee. Look at that thing. She's in good shape. So let me get some cutoff wheels. We'll bring it back, and then we will just cut this free willy free. Okay, everything is free. You can see it stayed in place. This one needs to be cut, but I figure we'll drag it out and I can do it out here. If you do your cuts properly, you know, it comes off, but it looks like the brake line grabbed that. Got a little rolly cart, guys. That's it. Hopefully you lower it down and then pull it on out. That's one way to do it. Perfect landing. Every time. So here is our rear end in all its glory. We will have to find, this is the code on it, or this one. We'll clean it up and kind of see what we're looking at. But we're just going to put the stock axle back in. I even think I'm just going to leave and rebuild the drums, because my car goes plenty fast and stops fine with rear drums. And then that big beautiful beast is all drum over there. This is rear drum front disc, and I'm okay with it. This thing isn't going to be too wild and crazy. And these are pretty good size drums, so they should stop this thing just fine for the rear. So we'll dig into it, figure it out, but everything is off from there. Next, we will have to figure out the front. So we'll go get started on the front portion, which I feel is more of a bear than this thing. So there's a lot more stuff connected to it as well. So we'll bring you back when we get over there and start taking bolts and nuts and things off the front axle. So I've done basic stuff, lines, and then let them drain into my pan, try not to make a mess. Both sides, and then we took the sway bar loose, right? I'm looking at all the components on here, and instead of crawling under this and dealing with it underneath, there's only 4 bolts holding it in on each of the corners, obviously to the leaf springs, and that keeps this whole thing as a unit. And then I should be able to drag it out and then work on it, you know, and not be in such a precarious situation laying underneath the stupid thing. And also, if I just undo those 2 bolts, we can swing it down hopefully in a graceful manner. And then same thing with side B. So I think we're gonna do that, make life a little easier because there's so much junk. So I just have to take this pitman arm loose. I think I'm gonna break it loose from the ball joint here. Hopefully, this is the plan. Again, suspension stuff does not want to come apart. So if we get this arm off, that's all the connection points basically to the body besides those. And then we'll just drag this whole monstrosity out together. And then this is obviously a full project in itself. But it can all stay together, stay in one piece until we get around to it. So let's get this out of the way. We'll get the leaf springs out of the way. And then I think if we can manage that successfully, we'll probably pull those rear leaf springs as well, but let's get this done first. So what should be a relatively straightforward, simple job sometimes turns into a nightmare for a little bit. So we got 4 bolts just to drop this whole assembly, and I figured it'd be easier to disassemble this stuff at my convenience out there instead of underneath here and dropping axles and such, right? Loosen all the bolts, pretty straightforward procedure. Figuring, oh, I'll just, you know, we'll swing it down, I'll have this out in no time. Well, look at this. This is like a building cars thing. Something in a million years. You see this? You see how that's crooked? I can't get this bolt to let go. And I was like, oh, I got you. I have a 2-jaw puller. You know, we'll put this behind here, and then we'll just press it out. I put some heat on it. I had talking to it with this guy, and then I figured, oh, we'll just press the thing out, right? So if I put like a ratchet on here, where's my guy? This guy had a breaker bar, thinking, oh, I could just twist it a little bit and beat on this end a little bit. So I can actually twist it. See, it'll twist. So it's free, right? This 2-jaw puller bent this. This was perfectly straight. And it was moving. I'm like, oh, it's going in. No, this was actually coming out. This thing hasn't moved. So, you know, it's 1 bolt, and it takes a bunch of time, and you just do all the things, all the procedures. You know, first thing, you just loosen it and push it out. Oh, maybe there's weight on it. You jack it up. Oh, maybe, you know, you just tap it with a hammer. That doesn't work. Maybe it needs a little heat. You get all the way to bending 2-jaw pullers, and then the cutting wheel needs to come out. So I'm going to support this, and I think a cutoff, now that I bent this out, I think a cutoff wheel will fit in there. And then this is just rubber, so it should go through both of these things. I just don't want this thing to spring down, you know, and so we'll take my time on that, but I'm just going to cut this one. And then the rest of these, like this one, I tapped it. You can see it came out, and same thing like with the back. I just want to make sure they're loose because this one was giving me such a fit. But man, that thing is welded in there. Let me know if you guys have ever come across a bushing like this, but I'm assuming it's original. It's never been apart. And for whatever reason, this thing's just fighting me. So it's time to cut it off. All right, we got him. Had a talking to it with the old cutting wheel. So this is what kind of sucks. I didn't have a reciprocating saw. We got into this a little bit. We can kind of grind that down and make it nice again. But that's the part when you're getting in there and trying to get it that stinks, is you start shaving down stuff that you don't really want to cut on. And same with in here. But ultimately, I mean, this thing is this thick. It's not going to miss, you know, if I smooth that out. No harm, no foul. So we'll jack it up, take this bolt out, and then what I'm hoping is we can swing it down gently and then do the same with the rear. And then hopefully those bolts should come out on either side of the rear. I've already tapped on those, and I believe that they actually move. So For whatever reason, this thing was just glued in there, man. I don't know. And this whole bushing probably needs to get pressed out with that bolt and everything in it. So we'll have to do new bushings anyways. I was able to chip these away with a screwdriver because they're all old and crusty. So all the bushings are blown out, so it doesn't matter. Ta-da! So we finally got it out. It was only that one bolt was really fighting me. So got it out, no harm, no foul. Next on the agenda is going to be removal of the lines. So I'm going to start by taking this cross member. This actually bolts in, so we're going to bolt it because you can see the line snake behind it, right? Also, all the way at the very end, you probably can't see because of the light, but there's a gas tank. That will obviously need to get dropped as well because the fuel lines are obviously going to connect to that. And then we have some miscellaneous wires and things that kind of hang down. So we'll see what needs to kind of come out and get out of the way, because at a certain point when we remove all this stuff, I'm moving it so we can clean the frame up, and then essentially we're gonna clean the frame, clean the bottom of the truck. We can probably coat everything and do all that fun stuff and then replace the body mounts. That way we don't have to worry about getting the new body mounts all trashed when we're working underneath. But first things first, let's get all this stuff out of the way, and then we will clean and inspect these lines. They seem to be in really good shape. I mean, there's minimal. This looks like just like surface rust. All this has been coated with grease probably for years, so I believe that's fine. And we'll inspect it. Like I said, we're gonna take these out and we'll inspect everything. If they are faulty or look kinked or jacked up or who knows what, we will just remake them and we will put them back in and back to use. So that is that. We'll have to make an assessment on the lines as we go, but we'll probably end up making new lines, I would imagine. But let's get this out of the way, see if we can drop the fuel tank, and then hopefully pull some lines out. We're working on taking the lines out, and I've cracked a few of these loose. We'll try to do one on camera here. Go get yourself a set of these cheap line wrenches. It's gonna make your life a lot easier and better. It has the cutout here, and then it has basically like the 6.12, well, what would be a 6-point, to grip the lines properly so you don't round them off and make beef jerky out of them. But the other thing it does too, like in this case, I mean, all of these are just, I'm just cracking them loose. They don't seem like they're welded in because we're using the proper wrench. We're not rounding them off and making, like I said, beef jerky out of the fittings. So, I mean, these are probably really good candidates to just put right back in. We may have to add an extra line for like a fuel return, but that is much easier. It's gonna save a lot of time and effort versus having to make all new stuff. But also, this thing had fluid sitting in it. All these lines had fluid, so that makes me feel better about it. If they were empty, you don't know what kind of crap is in there, but also, you wanna blow them out and check them and see what comes out of it, and just use your best judgment. Again, when you're working on these classics, it's old cars and old stuff. So let me see if we can get this one done on camera. Let me show you what we're working on. So these are the lines here, and I've already cracked the one on the bottom loose. So we'll see if we can get this one. We'll give it the old heave ho. Which way are we going? See? Bada boom, bada bing. I didn't even grunt. That's when you know you're doing good, when you don't have to like put the grunt into it and you're pulling so hard that you're shaking. Because then when it lets go and you start slamming your fists into metal objects that don't move, that makes for a bad afternoon. But yeah, so that thing did good, man. These lines, they seem pretty good, so we're gonna set these things kind of off to the side. The other reason I'm taking the brake lines out as well is we got this broken loose, but it needs to go back and to come out. So these guys here and here aren't letting it come out, so we're gonna pull these guys out. We will bag and tag these guys, and then we will try to slide the cross member in that direction. We were pretty persuasive with the little hammer to get it out of there. I thought I was gonna have to remove the lines, but we just beat it sideways and then it twisted, and then we twisted it up and Bob was your uncle. So I'm gonna clean up all this hardware before I get too carried away and put it in this guy, so at least I have track of it. Same thing with the brake lines, side to side. We'll label those, put those away. Those things are in super good shape. I gotta show you guys. But yeah. Look at that thing. Woo-wee! So, no leaks or nothing. I'm happy with these guys. So we will probably reuse these after we clean them all up. Clean them up, make sure they're good. And then all the soft rubber stuff, that'll all get made new. So we're not gonna mess with any of that. That's obviously junk. But the hard lines, at least up front, one less thing we gotta tackle. So I'm happy with that. And then this thing, you know, you can see that this will need some attention, and we'll break it down and clean it up and loosely assemble it again, because they'll have to get painted and everything before it goes back in. But we'll knock the big ugly dirt off of it here soon. So we bag all this stuff up, tag it, you know, we'll set this off to the side, I won't clean that on camera. And then we'll work on getting that fuel tank out, and then hopefully that opens these up, frees these up. I'll have to crawl underneath. But I think that's all that's left to pull the rest of the lines. We can pull this one too. This is a brake proportioning valve. All right, we're going to fast forward a little bit here on the GMC Jimmy build. I got some work done. I didn't think it really mandated a stop motion video, and I didn't have any good tips or tricks to share with you guys. So we're gonna walk and chew gum. I'll walk around real quick and show you what we did. It's basic disassembly stuff. When we get to some of the other things like coating stuff, or how I'm going to strip this, what I'm going to use to do it, the tools and such, I will share that with you. And then I'll get your feedback too, because, you know, I always learn stuff from you guys as well. So I have not taken the prop valve and the lines loose on here yet, because I didn't want to make a mess, but I got the lines from the front all the way to the back out. We took all the clips off, and then I pulled the wiring, which is essentially just like 4 wires that go to like taillights. There's like no wiring. I just unplugged it, and it was roached in the back. Anyway, we are going to rewire the whole truck. So we'll climb underneath real quick, and I'll share with you guys. Oh, before we climb underneath, rear bumper is off, gas tank is out. The straps were junk. Well, they weren't junk, they were working properly, they just wouldn't let go. So we made quick work of those. I cut them because I could just get new ones. You can see everything looks phenomenal. When we get the new tank, or even before, even with the old tank, we were gonna mock it up, and I'm gonna cut an access panel here. We will try to do that as tastefully as possible, but that is gonna save a ton of effort if we have in-tank fuel pump issues, because I wanna go, I'm debating going in-tank, but even if I don't go in-tank, you could change your setting unit, leaking fittings, any of that sort of stuff. So I'm debating on cutting an access panel, which I think will probably end up getting cut in. I don't think if you do it tasteful, no harm, no foul. It's just gonna make life easier later, right? We cut the little chingaders hanging down for the aftermarket exhaust that we got rid of. And then again, all the clips, you see little silhouettes where the clips were, all the way down, and we bagged and tagged all that stuff. Looks like I missed one dude there. But all in all, you can see how awesome this thing is and how wonderful it looks. So leaf springs still need to come out, and then we're gonna zip the frame down and zip the bottom of this, which will take hours of work. Like I said, I'll show you guys kind of how I'm gonna get it done. We'll go over some of the items, maybe a little bit of time lapse, but I'm not gonna beat you up with hours of me laying underneath here zipping this thing down, because nobody wants to watch that. And also, we're gonna do a new fuel tank. I'm not gonna mess with, you know, clogging up my fuel system with an old fuel tank. But the fuel lines themselves, they look phenomenal. So it's a 2-piece deal. So I think the entire front portion of that, and there's 2 of them, so it's really gonna make it simple to do a return style fuel system for fuel injection. So I was very excited about that. And I think we could just zip those down, clean them up, blow them out. And I think they're gonna be good. There's no kinks, no nothing. They're all original. And the one thing that I liked the most is when I took the rubber portion off, they were still shiny and like new, and they had fuel in them. So I think they're gonna be good to go, and I think that I'd be wasting time remaking something that I don't really have to do. So that is that. I'm gonna call it for this episode. Thank you guys all for watching. We're gonna come back, we're gonna do more stuff. Trying to break it up into smaller segments, but again, I know these are longer format videos. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me know in the comments if we're just running too long, what you guys would like to see. But I want to keep the content coming, and I can cut it down into more bite-sized stuff, but it's just more editing. So let me know if you guys are enjoying the videos. Until next time, I'm out.